Welcome to the Midnight Storyteller's Legacy Project. I'm Chloe, and if you make yourself comfortable, I have a story to tell you. It was deep midwinter in the vast forests of Eastern Europe. Snow lay thickly along all the tree branches. The whole forest stood in freezing silence. But if you had come to the edge of the trees, if you had come to the start of the snow plains that spread out glittering under the stars and the moon, you would have found a small cottage just tucked in among the first trees. The cottage roof was thickly caked with snow. From the chimney streamed up a line of smoke up towards the moon. And if you had been there, you could have gone up to the cottage window with your boots going crunch, crunch, crunch in the snow, and you could have looked inside. You would have seen a kitchen dresser with the gleam of fine plates and glasses. There was a kitchen table and 3 stools. On the far side, there was a bed piled high with comfy blankets and pillows and furs. And at the end of that little room there was a fireplace with a good blaze going. And in front of the hearth was a rocking chair, and in the rocking chair there sat an old woman. Well, maybe not so old. They called her Babushka. And Babushka sat and rocked and daydreamed, possibly helped by the little glass of something restorative, and she had a big red shawl around her, so comfy, so warm, remembering the times gone by, remembering when on a night like that she never would have been stopped indoors. On a night like that, in the years gone by, Babushka would have been out partying. She would have raced horse-drawn sleighs across the frozen lakes. She would have danced and sung. She would have been in the village inn drinking some of the lads under the table. And as she sat and sipped and remembered, it was as if some of those memories were coming back to life. There was singing, there were harness bells jangling, and they were right outside her cottage. Babushka woke up and someone was coming up to her front door. Crunch, crunch, crunch went the boots in the snow, and knock, knock, knock. And in that part of the world, at that time of year, you always answer the door. Babushka heaved herself up out of the rocking chair, grumbled across to the door, lifted the latch, and the hinges were pretty much frozen. She had to tug the door open. There was a gust of snowy, icy wind into her eyelashes. And then she looked out in astonishment. There were 3 travellers, all wrapped in big cloaks glittering with jewels. They had big fur hats and furry gloves. One of them was tall, with a long, curling, golden beard. He had blue eyes, he smiled and he bowed. The man standing in the middle was almost a giant, huge, broad shoulders, skin as dark as coal, and a lovely, warm smile. The man next to him was almost as short as I am, skin the colour of old parchment, a kind of clever, intelligent kind of smile, and they all bowed, and they said to Babushka, "We have a very long journey ahead of us, and we've already travelled a long way. May we come in, please? Would you allow us to come in and get warm? And could our horses rest in your stable with a bit of water and hay?" And Babushka really wasn't at all pleased to see them, but at that time of year, in that part of the world, you never turn anyone away. So they put the horses in the stable, and then the 3 travellers were tramping winter into Babushka's nice, clean cottage. They didn't take their boots off when they came across the threshold, so they were treading mud and slush into the doormat, and they were taking their cloaks off and shaking melting snow off all across Babushka's nice clean floor. She got them sat down at the kitchen table. She bustled about, heating up soup and carving up some rather old black bread, and each man was given a glass of something to chase out the cold. When they had finished eating and drinking, the really tall one turned to Babushka and said, "Madam, it is not by chance that we come to your cottage tonight." And Babushka was intrigued. She had already noticed that each man carried a parcel that he would not put down. Two of those parcels smelled sweet and spicy. One of them had the corner of wrapping paper torn, and Babushka had seen the gleam of gold. She listened. "It is not by chance we come to you tonight. Each one of us in our own land is a king, and each one of us studies the stars and the paths into the future. And we were told to cross the world tonight, to go to the village of Bethlehem, for in Bethlehem tonight the baby Prince of Peace will be born, and he will change the whole way of the world. And we were told, Babushka, to invite you to come with us. Join us, Babushka. We go to offer the Prince our worship and our gifts. Join us. Bring your love, bring your gift to the baby Prince of Peace." And Babushka looked the three wise men up and down, and she said, "You want me to go gallivanting across the world at this time of night, at this time of year? You must be joking. It's bloody freezing out there. And I am poor old woman. I don't have expensive spices or jewels or gold to give to a prince. Huh? And it's cold, and I am old, and my blood is thin. I'm not going anywhere. It's very nice to see you. Thank you for coming, and now it's time for you to go. Thank you very much. Good night. Goodbye." And Babushka shooed the three wise men out of her cottage. They had to fetch their horses out of her stable and climb into the saddle and clip clop, crunch crunch, jingle jangle away into the night. And Babushka slammed her door shut after them. She went and sat back down by the fire. She tried to go back into her comfortable daydream, but of course she couldn't. "Ah, that's sad. I would have liked to see the baby. I don't care he's a prince, but I like to see baby. But I didn't have anything to give. I mean, they have frankincense and myrrh. I could smell that. And the other one, he gives gold. How well would I find gold to give a... Oh, dear." And Babushka jumped out of her chair. I am stupid old woman. He might be a prince, but he's still a baby. And I know what baby likes. So, in the morning, I will catch up with three handsome men, and we will go together. It will be good to travel with handsome men, and we will go to Bethlehem together. Before Babushka went to bed that night, she went to a cupboard at the back of the cottage. The handle was tied with a faded ribbon. She tugged the ribbon loose and the doors swung open. There was a scent of lavender. On the shelves inside the cupboard lay all the linens and laces and baby clothes and toys for the marriage and the children that Babushka had never had. She took a basket and scooped into it everything, all the toys and the clothes and trinkets that a baby might need. Next morning, the sky was blue, the birds were singing, the snow glittered, and Babushka set off, basket on her arm, stick to help her walk, her big boots, her big hat, her red shawl, her grey cloak. She had so many layers of clothing on, she was almost round. And she trudged down to the village, and she asked her friends, did you see them? Three kings, they say, and very handsome men. I must catch up with them, and we are crossing well together. Her friends looked at her and said, Babushka, have you been on the vodka again? We didn't see anybody. Nobody came this way. You better go further on. So Babushka went to the next village, and the town, and the town and the village after that, and no one had seen anybody. And they all said to her, Babushka, sorry, you must go further on. And she did. And you probably know, Babushka never did find Bethlehem. But they say that Babushka's God was so pleased with her love, her searching for that baby Prince of Peace, that every year on Christmas Eve, Babushka is allowed to come back down to earth. And as dusk settles and lamps are lit in towns and villages across the land, you might see Babushka with her cloak and her red shawl and her basket of gifts, tramping through the snowy streets. She goes into every house where a child lies sleeping. The parents welcome her. They might have a glass of something to chase out the cold. They go into the child's room, and Babushka takes a present from her basket, puts it on the end of the bed, and then she's off again. As she goes down the steps, she's smiling, talking to herself. Babushka, you must go further on always. You must go further on, Babushka. And she's walking out into the night, her boots going crunch, 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 away into the night and the stars. Thank you.